Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape. It's been a while. With us again is our other co-host and founder, Alex. Welcome back.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
And today, as we talk on Halloween Eve, we are going back to the 90s, which every 90s kid seemed to be obsessed with horror. The two biggest ones that we are discussing tonight, I think everyone remembers, is Goosebumps. You did not go to the Scholastic Book Fair at your school without seeing a table dedicated solely to those books. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark technically was a better book, which we'll have to discuss later. And then my favorite out of all of them, which was Are You Afraid of the Dark? Now, I loved them. Alex, our friend over here, does not do well with being scared.
No, I have to admit, I will admit, Afraid of the Dark was scarier than Goosebumps. That's totally true. I will admit that.
It depends on what episode we're talking about.
Right.
On the whole, yes.
Yeah.
But Night of the Living Dummy, first one was not bad, but as the story progressed, it got fairly dark. I mean, I think it was the second or third episode. It was like Night of the Living Dummy 2 or 3, where he was like turning her family into puppets and then was like trying to shatter one of them and kill them.
Oh my God.
Which was, again, it was just normal 90s kids TV. You're like, all right, well, people die.
I think I'm still actually afraid of like ventriloquist dolls. So I probably avoided any episode with Slappy. And
well, what about the new Goosebumps? Because that was actually really good with Slappy.
That was great, actually. I mean, that one I wasn't.
That didn't scare you?
I don't know why, maybe because it was Jack Black's voice.
Jack Black? No. I mean the show.
Oh, the show. Yeah, no. I mean the show was terrifying. I mean that's why.
I mean like the new show, the one that they just did like 2 years ago.
I haven't watched it.
Oh, you son of a gun!
Haven't watched it. Sorry. I think because I heard it's really terrifying, and then, like I said,
it wasn't what. Oh my gosh.
I know season 2 is coming out, right? Isn't it an anthology though? It doesn't nothing to do with the first season.
They said they eventually would go back to the story because the story ended on a very big cliffhanger. Which I mean that's a whole nother episode within itself.
Right.
That being said, as good as Goosebumps was, and I think it was good just to see the books that we read on TV. Are You Afraid of the Dark was definitely the better storytelling. But the other thing that was crazy, and I can't remember if Are You Afraid of the Dark was filmed in Canada. I'm almost positive it was a Canadian TV series, which is why they got a lot of stars, especially ones from Canada. Going through this, some of the list, Tia Mowry, and I think Tamara Mowry, who everyone knows from Sister. They were both on the show. I think both of them. I can't remember. Jay
I remember
Baruchel,
the episode. Yeah,
I remember the episode too.
Yeah.
Jay Baruchel and Hayden Christensen both on.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Hayden Christensen. I think he was in the pool episode. It was either him or Jay Baruchel that was in the pool episode.
God, the pool episode. The most terrifying episode out of all the. I swear.
No, not even close.
I mean, I did that episode made me afraid to go to the pool. I mean, the way Jaws made people afraid to go to the ocean, that episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark made people afraid to go to the pool.
But not only were they in this, Ryan Gosling did an episode.
He did.
Elisha Cuthbert did an episode. Neve Campbell did an episode. And the one that I was looking through that I forgot was in an episode, but he definitely showed up. Gilbert Gottfried was in an episode. And Will Friedle was in an episode.
Did he play a monster? Gilbert Gottfried? Was he like?
Yeah, he was like I
A clown?
No, a kid got killed on accident, and he was like an attendant that like let people into the afterlife and was like trying to like correct a mistake from like the Grim Reaper. I think he was a Grim Reaper.
Okay. With the hammer.
But I mean, they had, like I said, I mean, Neve Campbell, and Ryan Gosling, and again, I think a lot of it had to do with it being a Canadian show.
Yeah,
I think that really is why we have so many people that were on that show.
Yeah, I mean, typically Canadian, I mean, any Canadian production, I mean, even though it's like broadcasted here in the US or it's paid by the United States, like the show, always gets like Canadian actors. I mean, that includes like, for instance, like Stargate, Atlantis, and SG1. I think all those shows were filmed in Canada, and most of the actors were from Canadian,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just I guess maybe just something to do with if you're gonna film here, you have to use our actors, unless you're paying extra to.
I don't know if it was that as much as it was proximity. Especially like Jay Baruchel and Ryan Gosling and Hayden Christensen, like a lot of them who went to like Ryan Gosling was in a boy band. I think he performed next to, I think there's video that he performed next to what's his name? What's his name on NSYNC that's now in trouble? Justin Timberlake.
Oh, okay. Do you mean the main one? Okay, I thought we were talking about the other ones. Okay.
No,
yeah.
I think there's a video where he was like singing with them, and I think Ryan Gosling was also was in the Mickey Mouse Club with Britney Spears and everyone.
Yes, he was. Yes.
So I think really it's just they were casting, and they said, "All right, who wants to be on a major children's network show?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, for sure."
Yeah, right.
They said, "No problem." The other one I forgot that was on there, Colin Ferguson, which I'll give you 2 seconds if you know where he's from, because it's from a great show that we watched.
Colin Ferguson. Oh my God. What does he look like?
I'm not gonna tell you that. He's a white male.
No, thanks, Ryan. All right.
You're welcome.
Now I have to go and look up Colin Ferguson.
He played in Eureka.
The sheriff?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't even have to. Yes, Colin Ferguson. I can't believe I forgot his name. Great show, by the way. I love
not only that, which is really weird. When I was going through the list, was Aaron Ashmore was also there, who was in a little show called Warehouse 13 as Stephen Jinx.
Oh my God. I love that show too. Warehouse 13, guys. I mean, we are going to do a whole episode about Warehouse 13. Amazing show. But anyway, sorry, before we get sidetracked, but go ahead, continue.
I mean, I think you could keep going down the list. Again, I think that's what for me made Are You Afraid of the Dark better. Maybe not realizing as a kid, because obviously they were all kids doing the show. But the acting was just better. The stories were so. Goosebumps usually ended up pretty wrapped up, like pretty nicely. There's only like a few episodes where like maybe like the monsters won, but that's because like it was in like an alien world or something. Like everything kind of wrapped up for the most part nicely. There was a few episodes that like left you on a cliffhanger, like, oh, what will happen? Are You Afraid of the Dark? Just like there are some times where they're like, oh, well, this person found out that they're really a spirit and they're dead, and they now have to accept that they're dead and move on. And you're like, what the hell? It's a 10-year-old. You're asking them to accept death.
Yeah.
But I think looking back on it, I mean, I think that's what made Are You Afraid of the Dark, to me, much better.
Well, I think that the big difference I have to say between the storylines between Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps is because Goosebumps was taking the books. They're adapting the books, and they usually try to stay very close to the source material. Although, I mean, like it's like a 23-minute episode, and so you're gonna cut out a bunch of stuff in the book because each episode was based off of a book, right? It's not like they spend like a whole season on one book of Goosebumps. Where Are You Afraid of the Dark? They had like that freedom. The writers had that freedom of like taking inspirations from like different things and different sources, materials, and coming it up, for a 23 minute to a half an hour program, right? So it could be like,
Yeah.
terrifying, I mean, the more we talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark, the more it reminds me of the Twilight Zone,
Yeah, for kids.
Yeah, for kids, exactly. Just but more of kind of like a spooky aspect to it. But Twilight Zone, same thing. Like, I mean, at the end, it's usually like a big twist or something, or wrapped up. I mean, but I mean, as we're talking, I mean, those writers must have been fans of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's also weird because like literally both of these shows, I think Goosebumps had a start in 1992. I think when Arlstein came out and started putting them out there, and I think Are You Afraid of the Dark either started in 1991 or 1992, like literally the beginning of the 90s.
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of pretty much both things started. Now, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Number one, it just had like the best name. I mean, the kids they called themselves the Midnight Society. That's just a great name. That's a superhero like name.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't Justice League Dark, like Midnight Society would have been a perfect name.
Just to go back to your, it aired on 1992.
1992,
yes,
good year for horror.
Yeah, I mean, or let me see here. The plot episode was on October 31st, 1990 on Nickelodeon. So actually 1990. So I think it came out before Goosebumps, actually.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
Yeah. So sorry, but yeah, but you were saying before, my bad.
I'm not sure anymore. But anyway, they did try to revive Are You Afraid of the Dark along with Goosebumps actually rather recently. Now, Are You Afraid of the Dark, the revival series, I don't think it did well because Paramount did pull it from their platform. Actually, Are You Afraid of the Dark had like 3 revivals, I think.
Yeah, I think
they did.
Right.
They did quite a few things. The newer one, it wasn't as good, and you're never gonna recapture the original.
I mean, it just had to be the writers. Like when you get new writers, you move on and stuff like that. I mean, they completely revived Goosebumps in a different way for television. Make it more serious, make it more not for kids, more getting towards like young adults, teens, like older teens, stuff like that.
I don't
Where
know.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? I feel like they're still trying to target at young kids, right? Wasn't those the revivals?
It's hard to say. I really don't know what their intentions were. Goosebumps, however, with their revival, I will say the new show did stick it stuck to the stories, but definitely took some artistic liberties. And I mean, that was kind of what Goosebumps had on Are You Afraid of the Dark is that you could watch the show, but you could also go buy the books. If you went through all the episodes, you could still buy the books. I think every one of us growing up had the VHS of The Haunted Mask.
Yeah.
Which is still one of my favorite stories. It still haunts my sister to this day. The idea of she will not put on a mask at a Halloween store because she is afraid it truly will not come off her face.
I mean, they did pretty good. That the book and the episode did pretty good, actually. I mean,
the book was good, and that's a story too. Like that's a book like you read, you're like, all right, yeah, it's a little spooky, and it's an enchanted mask. It's haunted by a spirit, but you really can't see it. The mask because the mask that they kind of had on the original artwork cover, and I wish I had the book to bring up, because the cover was like the illustrational. Goosebumps always did.
I remember the cover. Yeah,
a very decent job of kind of doing wacky, almost cartoonish kind of covers that kind of gave you a decent idea of what the story was gonna be. It really didn't look like that bad. Like the mask was, again, it's illustration too. So I mean, we're also talking 1990. This wasn't Leonardo da Vinci painting like a handcrafted mask.
Right.
But the mask they chose for the movie is a much more terrifying mask.
Yes.
I mean, it had fangs and everything. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe it didn't haunt me as a kid, but it was spooky at the end when like all the masks are like surrounding her.
Yes. Yes, I remember. Yeah, I mean, and then they had the follow up one, which was like the Haunted Mask Part Two, where her friend gets like an old person's mask and starts like becoming like very old and decrepit or something like
There was
that.
that because the
Yeah.
original mask, the guy couldn't burn in time, and they like somehow like stole his face and were trying to wreak havoc again. Again, it's just stories that just really just kind of live in. I mean, this live in everyone's memory. R.L. Stein, I'm not really sure like who initially did Are You Afraid of the Dark, but I'm assuming it's a producer that probably moved on, and like we obviously are talking about it now, and it's something that sticks into our 90s kids memory that we bring up.
Hmm.
R.L. Stein is still producing content today.
Oh yeah.
I know there's been Goosebumps spin-off books, but I think he's also worked on other projects and whatnot, and I think he has co-written or kind of worked with comic books too.
I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like R.L. Stein, like he's I mean, as a kid, like I mean, like that was like our Stephen King, you know. I don't know if you ever tried reading Stephen King as a kid. Very freaking hard to get through because he's so meticulously, like I mean, detailed. Stephen King, where R.L. Stein just kind of like just gets right to the point, and
Well,
it's more
in
easy.
all fairness, they were writing for much different audiences.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, we have to. I think we have to understand that much different audience.
Yes.
Obviously, Stephen King wrote his books a long time ago.
Yeah.
We all grew up watching the movies.
Yes.
Silver Bullet is still one of my favorite books with Gary Busey before he went crazy. I love a good werewolf story. I
Yeah.
will say there are some famous people that did show up in Goosebumps. The one that I always forget until I see him at every convention now is Cal Dodd, the voice of Wolverine. He was the voice of Slappy the Dummy.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that. Did
Yeah.
not even know that because like he's so like Wolverine. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think of him, I only think of Wolverine. I have no. I mean, of course he's a voice actor. I mean, he's done other voices and stuff like that. Slappy was not on my radar though.
Yeah, he was the original voice. Now that being said, Jack Black obviously took over for a lot of voices. Because R.L. Stein used to appear as himself when he would introduce the episode.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Which was always cool because I always liked it, even when Todd McFarlane did it for Spawn, which is on HBO, like would introduce the episode.
Great,
Which is
great
crazy.
anime.
Yeah, he looks super young when you look at him now. That tells you how long ago it was. But
Yeah.
R.L. Stein did the same thing. And then Jack Black eventually went on to voice him or be him essentially in the movies.
Right.
And he also went on to voice Slappy in the new movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. The movies were great. Again, I think I think Jack Black put it perfectly. Like they were like they're meant to be kind of like the Universal monsters. Like the original ones. Like where anyone can really watch them. They're not too scary, but they're just enough spooky. I enjoyed them. Like I said, like I haven't seen the revival on Goosebumps yet, so I don't know how terrifying it really is.
Well,
Or if it's
for
even.
you, probably. I
That
mean,
makes sense.
realistically.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was really difficult, and I know they talked about before, and it's funny, is that R.L. Stein had a lot of trouble getting his books in, I think, like in schools and in libraries because of the material.
Yeah, I mean, just because right, because they're a bit more frightening and stuff like that. I mean, well, because in schools, I mean, we're talking about the '90s here. I mean, I hate to say, I mean, like a lot of schools didn't want Harry Potter in
Yeah.
their and Goosebumps came out way before Harry Potter, so I mean, it was just the era. It's just.
Well, I find
it's
it weird that like a school library would be like, "Oh, we're gonna ban Goosebumps," but like he signed a deal with Scholastic, and again, for those that are listening that are either older than us or in the same generation, everyone knows Scholastic.
Yeah.
Huge publisher. They do almost every children's. I mean, I think almost every major children's book for quite a while. I don't know about now, is produced through them. But the Scholastic Book Fair, everyone remembers begging your parents for money. You're like, here's $5. You're not getting anything more. And you're like, can I trade up? What can I do? And those books were always there. And at this point, I really think you could credit Goosebumps for teaching a lot of kids how to read, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I still have. You know what? I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what was it? It was back in film school, and I had some time to kill, and I went to a local bookstore, and I saw they were selling reprints of Goosebumps. So I bought a couple, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep these. For nostalgia, for me to reread, and hopefully, someday, when I have kids and they will want to read them, and then we can have like a freaking talk about them. So it's more like something like almost like a generation thing. Like, like I grew up with these, and I want my kids to try to experience the same thing, so I can share something with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the benefit to streaming. I'm almost positive either on Amazon Prime or whatnot, you can still buy and get your hands on the original Goosebumps episodes. I know Netflix had them for the longest time. I don't know if they still had them, because I know one Halloween, me and my wife definitely rewatched a decent amount of them with her mom. There was some really, like I said, there was definitely some creepy episodes. The sad part is, we cannot get our hands on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Not that I'm aware of. The original.
Not even on Prime? I mean Prime. Not even on Paramount? Paramount Plus? I think it's on Paramount Plus, isn't it?
So the revival was, but they pulled the revival because I don't think it did too well.
Okay, but they don't have the original on Paramount Plus.
The original. If I'm gonna buy money and I'm gonna spend my money, I'm definitely buying the original. I'm definitely not. I mean, I appreciate what they were trying to do with the revival. But I really don't want to necessarily watch the revival. If I could watch the original, and I think some people have definitely put them on YouTube, but I'm not sure.
I'm sure you can find them. Like if you go to like your replay or your, like that place that does this, the buys used books. I forget what it's called.
Half price books.
Yes, half price books. I'm sure.
Well, the problem with Are You Afraid of the Dark is, I really don't know if these got done enough for someone's like, hey, there's this thing called DVDs. Like, I feel like they're like, well, hopefully everyone got VHSs done.
Well, it's like, for example, the Spider-Man series, the 90s version, they never came out with a full box set of the complete series. They just came out with like sporadic episodes, like the Venom collection or the Doc Ock or the Green Goblin or the one episode. They made a whole DVD just of the one episode where Daredevil shows up, and so maybe they made some like special ones like that, where it's just a few episodes here and there, but I'm sure there has to be something, out there.
Yeah, I hear you. Now in terms of episodes, obviously, I'm always curious to hear Alex. I love hearing him explain the terror of it was the episode that scared you. I think is a lot of people's scariest episode, and that is the one with Jay Baruchel. There's some kind of monster that's like living in the bottom of a pool that like drowned him as a young boy.
It's so
or like he almost got him like in the drain, but somehow he like barely escaped. Right. Yeah, I mean, it traumatized you a lot more than it did me.
The creature alone, like the freaking creature, it comes out and it's just like, it's not just like a skeleton from like Scooby-Doo, right? It's like a decaying flesh skeleton that's out to get you and drown you back into the pool. Like it's just it's terrifying. I think there was a movie that I'm pretty sure got inspired called like Night Swim or something like that, and it had to have been inspired from that movie. Oh, and Poltergeist Part 3, wasn't there like a scene in there where like like kids like disappeared in the pool or something like that? It's always been like something. I don't know.
The Tale of the Dead Man's Float is the title of the episode. That's the one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what made it more terrifying as a whole was that it wasn't like a simple like creature like they, and again, we didn't have CGI really. I mean, this was a 90s show.
Yeah,
So they had to use practical effects, which
is
you really
great.
have to give them props.
Yes.
What made the episode so terrifying was it was like a giant like red algae covered skeleton that came out of the pool. It wasn't even like like someone in like a black coat, like a cape going ooh, like it was
No.
like they really fleshed out like a full like demonic red skeleton that was like literally trying to pull people like. And I think it made it more worried because like how big a drain is, and someone like disappeared, and in your head you're just like that's it. I mean, they died, they're dead.
Yeah, I mean, like, this drain is like this small, and they pull them into this small. They're.
Now I will say what is magical about this episode, and it speaks volumes to the 90s. We did not, have the power of friendship that saved the day, or like reverse magic. I think like Jay Baruchel's character was like then became like a science major and formulated like some kind of like super like hydrochloric acid like bleach and like literally dissolved the monster. And I'm like, yes, science saves the day.
Science. Bill Nye would be very proud.
That's what he would. Now it's funny you say that was one of your scariest stories. I don't, like I said, I never really actually had one that was, to me, that was scary. But my sister, as Alex knows, it also is generally frightened, but she likes watching them.
She does. I give her props for that.
There was an episode, and I had to look it up to get the exact title, but it was called "The Tale of Laughing in the Dark." And this kid goes to an amusement park with his sister and sees like this weird like animatronic clown, and he steals the nose of this clown, and then slowly but surely all these clowns start like he starts hearing them in his house at night. He like tries to go back to the circus, and they're like, no, these clowns only come for the bad children, and they take them away forever and they never get to come back. And like he literally is like getting ready to be taken into the closet and like turned into a clown to like never go back to his home. It scared the living hell out of my sister, and for like 2 weeks, only 2 weeks, she was on her best behavior because she was definitely afraid that clowns were going to take her away.
Yeah, it did its job. You have to admit.
It did its job.
It did its job. The only other episode I remember from the Goosebumps series that I was really afraid of, and I had it on VHS, was like this like haunted house, but like all the people were like dead. They were like kind of like zombies, but not real zombies. Like they didn't look like zombies. They just like gray skin or something like that. I remember like being so terrified, and my mom being like, "You see, that's why you shouldn't watch it, because now you're scared."
I will say, like, I don't even know if really any episode of Goosebumps really did like a number. I still watched Night of the Living Dummy. I think that for most people that definitely put the fear of ventriloquism, because I mean, like, again, the books, like you look at the title, and I think we all know like the dummy sitting on the chair by himself, the head to the side, large gaping mouth. Like, it was almost cartoonish. And again, you read the story. There's 3 words you gotta say that's like tucked into his pocket, and it brings him to life, and he's causing mischief. And again, you really don't think about it. They made the most satanic looking ventriloquist dummy that they possibly could for this kid's show.
Yeah.
Like, the movie with Jack Black was comedic. Like, and I think that's why a lot of kids weren't, or a lot of people probably weren't scared, because it was very comedic. The way he talked and the way he moved, the way he addressed, Jack Black as R.L. Stine. Like, it was almost funny. Right. In the episode, it was evil. I mean, pure evil. That episode single-handedly probably ruined ventriloquism. Like, you really didn't hear about ventriloquists until Jeff Dunham came back on the scene, and I think maybe that's what kind of brought it back in, because it just ruined a lot of kids.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, to be fair, I think there are episodes. I mean, like the whole fear of like ventriloquism. I mean, dubbing's coming to life came way before R.L. Stein. Like,
Oh yeah,
for example, I think like Twilight Zone.
Mommy
Um,
Dearest
yeah,
or
the
Dolly
same.
Dearest or whatever it was.
Yeah, and the same with the Alfred Hitchcock. He had like his own TV show back in the '60s, and there was like one where like I don't know, it was it was like an evil dummy, but kind of like
Well,
sympathetic. I don't remember.
I'm
I was
gonna
just
tell you,
terrified.
there's a lot of places that did Evil Dummy because even Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a Evil Dummy episode.
Yes,
That was
yes.
that was a creepy episode, and the
Mhm.
one on Angel where there was like puppets that turned Angel into a puppet, that got really creepy too.
Yeah,
The
because
one that
when yeah.
the one that I think is the creepiest was a movie my grandfather made me watch. God rest his soul. Was called Magic with Anthony Hopkins, who was
Oh my god, I know
a
exactly what you're
failing
talking about.
a failing ventriloquist, and they never revealed in the movie if the dummy was alive or if it was his own like split personality psychosis that was making the dummy talk, telling him to like, everyone's making fun of you, you're never gonna make it. That was probably the creepiest iteration. Great
Yeah,
movie, but don't watch it alone. I will say, even to this day, Anthony Hopkins just the man doesn't miss.
no, he does not. He does not. Yeah, like you said, like these producers, they didn't mess around. They're like, all right, you want a scary kids TV show? We're gonna give you a scary kids TV show. Don't
Well,
you
what was
worry.
weird too was Are You Afraid of the Dark at least came on what we all now know as Snick at Night or like late night when Nickelodeon kind of got to like all that and more of an older like show,
Hmm.
which made sense because older kids are going to stay up a little bit longer. Goosebumps came on at like 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yes,
I mean, what? Again, who in their right mind approved this? Like, I look back on it and it's very amazing.
Well, you know what? Because like it was part of like the Fox Kids network,
It was.
and so like it was like along with like Power Rangers. I think like Spider Man, and I think they had Batman the Animated Series at one point. Licensed to air that. I mean, so it was all part of that, like, and it's part of the Saturday morning stuff, right? So there's no like Fox Kids at
Yeah.
night. That was exclusively for like Nickelodeon, where they were popular enough that they could do that, right? And then after that, it became Nick at Night. So it had like a whole
Yeah.
like schedule going. So we had like, Nick Jr. in the morning, early in the morning for little kids, Nickelodeon, in the afternoon. What was it called?
Snick at Night.
Snick at Night, by the evening, and then that turned into like Nick at Night, which
Yeah.
would last until like 6 in the morning or 7, when it became Nick Jr. again.
Which was really weird because Nick at Night was literally just reruns of MASH, I Love Lucy, and
Yeah.
like it took a really weird turn. I'm not.
It was. I mean, hey, but that's how I got to experience the shows that my mom watched.
Correct.
When she was growing up. So I Love Lucy, Happy Days, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and anyone who watches WandaVision, will understand all those references in that show because they grew up watching Nick at Night. Millennials who did not watch Nick at Night probably watch WandaVision and be like, what is this? I don't get. I've never seen an episode of this. This is just an old show. Okay, I'll watch it because it's
People know. You're giving them way less. And you said millennials. You are a millennial.
Am I?
Yes, you are. You're like right at the cusp of it. So settle down. One of the weird things about the stories, especially again, Goosebumps, is just really weird. Because Are You Afraid of the Dark knew what it was. It was a show to scare kids. Like without a doubt, it didn't fray from it. Talked about death, had no problem talking about death. Goosebumps, however, R.L. Stein has said that the books were for the kids. He really enjoyed it. He loved like the kids that like to be scared. Like he definitely did it for the kids. Right. But he said he's gone to say on many occasions is that he thinks the success of his books and why his books were unbanned and like they can never like kind of win to get his books banned was he never had drug use, which I'd say every horror kid book really honestly never dealt with any drugs or even smoking, which was really weird now that when I think about it. There's none of that. There's no like underage drinking. None of that was involved. Obviously, no adult situations. I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
No violence. I mean, no one really got like stabbed or like beaten. Like maybe like there's like the old 90s cliche, like, oh, get out of the way, shrimp. But like no, there was never like physical like beatings.
Right.
Now, what I find really odd from Mr. R.L. Stein is he has also gone to say, well, I don't want to ever put kids in, adult stressful situations. That's a bold-faced lie, as we were just talking. And number two, he's like, no one's ever died in my books. But he has definitely ended a book because one of the episodes that I hated being left on a cliffhanger, I think it was called Welcome to Horrorland. This family gets into like this weird carnival that's run by monsters, and they had to like play games to like get their car back and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the episode, they think they won and they think they're out of the way. They didn't get eaten by the monster. But then the game host is like, oh, little do they know I have control of their car. And it's just like, oh, will they survive this cliff fall? And it's just like, the end, question mark. You may not have killed them, but come on. You're really going to sit there and say, oh, well, I mean, hey, I don't ever want kids to feel like they're in a stressful situation.
Well, I mean, like I think maybe by that time, like he needed to up the ante a little bit, right? And everyone is scared of death, at one point or another in their life, So that's just, I think maybe by that time, he was like, you know what, let's just make it like a little bit, like maybe he was like trying to like move away from like kid content and more towards like young adult content or something. I think that's where like Fear Street or Street Fear or something like that comes into play.
You know what? Funny enough, going through these episodes, man, a couple just came back in my mind. Another one that really scared my sister, and she still hates gnomes to this day. There was a "Are You Afraid of the Dark" episode. This kid's mom somehow like found like these weird like lawn gnomes.
Right.
And then they live next door to like an ex-military guy who was just a hard ass on like everyone in the neighborhood, installed like security lights and everything. And something was up. These were like evil lawn gnomes that were like enchanted with magic. So when the lights went off, they would like come, and they were like these little evil, again, practical effects are crazy. Everyone should look this up. But they would cause mischief. They like broke his stuff in his lawn and were just kind of flat out evil, trying to turn like other people into gnomes. And I think the episode ended where like he's outside of his house and like the lights go off, and they literally the next morning he's converted to a gnome, like, and the lawn gnomes are like evilly like staring back, like standing at him. And that's just the end of the episode. Like that's it. Super, super creepy.
I remember they had like and these gnomes weren't like little. They were like
they were like 3 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm like,
he's saying that word.
Sorry, guys, my bad. It's a generation thing. It's never. But yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that clip, and being like, if I was the kid, I'm like, who the hell makes these 3-foot gnomes? They're like just like wide. And I'm like, who does that? I mean, I'd be like, yeah, this is weird. I'm like, so
two more really creepy ones. One was these kids who like got caught in a library after school and witnessed that the librarian is like this like bug guy that's like eating like people or like the kids, and like he's like chasing them around the library, like trying to get him because they discovered a secret. And then they go home, but he like finds something that they left in the library. But then it turns out like their parents, like as soon as he transforms in their house to like get them, their parents are like drinking his blood because they're vampires, and they're like, oh kids, we weren't sure how to tell you this, but your first set of fangs should be coming in. And like again, that's how the episode ends.
I think I remember that very vaguely. So it's basically like monsters, kind of like versus monsters at the end, like
kind of.
yeah. So like like these. I mean, good for the kids. I mean, their parents protected them. They did their job. They just happened to be vampires, you know.
The one I think that was kind of scary, but more of a creepy. I was just looking up to make sure I wasn't having a fever dream for a second. They're called, and you have to look it up. Pull up another bar. It's called The Ghastly Grinner, and I guarantee you, like, you're gonna remember it from the images because it was one of the creepiest episodes.
The gas.
It's gonna autofill for sure.
Ghastly
Grinner.
Tales of the Ghastly Grinner. Here we go.
Yep. This like
the clown.
This comic book character that's like literally Joker-esque, like somehow escapes this comic book from this kid. It's like trying to like turn him and like his parents
into comic book.
But like they start like bleeding at the mouth, like ink, like this
Green.
blue ink.
Yeah. Okay, I remember this one. This one I definitely remember. I was both creeped out and a little bit fascinated with it because of the comic book.
Yeah.
You know, like I loved comic books, but I was creeped out from this damn clown. You know, yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like I said, I do like Goosebumps, but Are You Afraid of the Dark definitely plays a key. Now, funny enough, we were talking on Instagram earlier today. There were a lot of other shows that were spawned from this. Erie, Indiana, as he had played a clip, that was okay. I didn't really enjoy Erie, Indiana that much. I don't know if you did.
Erie, Indiana. God, dude.
You literally sent a clip on Instagram.
I know. No, I do. I mean, but we're about to go on, so I was like, oh, look, remember this? Hold on, I gotta look at it now. Hold on. But go ahead, keep going.
I don't know, and again, it was just like these kids that were like in Erie, Indiana, that like investigated.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I hear
like,
it. I remember this. Yeah, I totally remember the show. It was like it was like So Weird. Remember that show on Disney? It was called So Weird, and about this traveling family that like musicians.
See, So Weird was actually good. I actually did enjoy So Weird.
I did too. That was a really good show. Erie, Indiana, I don't remember much. I remember like wasn't like an episode like it was an ice cream truck, you know, and
I think so.
Something like that. Yeah.
So Weird, I think I liked more because one of the brothers on that show was the guy who played in Brink, the movie for Disney.
Yes, I remember.
It was, yeah. And I will say that they had some really like good. It was almost like Supernatural, like the kid version of Supernatural, because they'd go town to town like solving mysteries.
Right.
Oh yeah, So Weird. Erie, Indiana. The one that I remember, The Secret Life of Alex Mack. She like literally gets like tainted with like governments. Like
right, but I was considered that more like a superhero show.
I don't know. I feel like she dealt with some weird stuff. Maybe not as much. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like horror.
Yeah.
As much as like Erie, Indiana, or So Weird. Definitely, again, had some dark. But I don't even consider those shows horror really either.
No, just more like supernatural entertainment, something like that. You know. Do you remember the cartoon version of Tales from the Crypt for kids?
Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, there was the adult version, Tales of the Crypt, HBO. You know, for some reason, my parents let me watch it.
Everyone did.
You know,
we all did. We went to the theater as a family and watched the movie, The Demon Knight. Billy Zane, and Jada Pinkett Smith. Very early on.
I only watched those films like later on VHS or something. I think my uncle's house when he brought them for the kids to watch. It was like a whole family thing, you know.
The first movie was really good and really dark. Second movie, Bordello of Blood. I think Corey Feldman was in it. It was a really weird sequel.
I had that one on DVD actually. Yeah, yeah.
I think we all know why you watched that movie. I will go without saying. But yeah, it was interesting because Beetlejuice also had a show.
Cartoon, yeah.
Beetlejuice,
but Beetlejuice was more like a dark comedy, I would call it. I mean,
well, so was the Tales from the Crypt. The show, like
the cartoon, the cartoon, yeah. I'm trying to remember any other ones that were kind of like supernatural based. When I was,
The one that should have been that just didn't. I just think they were too late on to capitalize on everything before it got done. Was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That was a great book, and I really enjoyed the movie.
Okay. There's a show.
There was never a show. That's the problem.
Okay.
The movie was really good.
Okay.
Movie had Austin Azure, as we met him at Chronicon. Well, I did. I don't know if you saw him.
I did see him.
He was in that movie. He was in the movie, and they had a pretty decent amount of younger actors. Those were also, I think, again, it was more of What Are You Afraid of the Dark read a book. I think Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was more like that than it was Goosebumps.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
But they just, unfortunately, they kind of jumped in, I think, at like the last minute, and it was kind of too late. It was like, because after like end of 90s, those kind of horror shows, the kids ones, they kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, they did. I mean, like taste change, kids taste change and stuff like that, so you just had to.
But I wouldn't even say like it was taste that changed as much as like it's literally like it was just gone. Like there really was nothing that like replaced it. Like, I mean, it just disappeared.
I mean, yeah, that's how all kids shows were back in the 90s. I mean, like after a certain while, if the producers didn't feel it was going to make enough money, they just ended it. I mean,
But when you look at it, like we went from Pokemon to Digimon to Yu-Gi-Oh, like and Power Rangers, the VR Trooper, like you could see a progression. Things definitely changed, but we went through a progression. We got different things. I mean, Bakugan, Duel Masters, I can name a whole bunch. You see the progression, and it got weirder. And again, Cartoon Network became public. It wasn't just on Dish. Teen Titans, like we got all this stuff. But young adult horror just got wiped off the map. There wasn't even like a transition show of like, okay, well, let's try, a more PC early 2000s show. Like it just like, they're like, you know what? Nah, this doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it is all about marketing,
But even Disney movies, I mean, Halloween Town, Twitch It, like literally all the movies we grew up with.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I mean, obviously Disney doesn't really do Disney original movies per se anymore, except probably on Disney Plus. I know. I mean, they've done a few originals, but those movies, we haven't seen a run one of those.
No, I mean because of streaming. I mean, like I said, it's just a different mindset now.
Not really, because we could do a Return to Halloween Town, because I think I definitely didn't watch either the third or fourth Halloween Town, because they did replace the one girl who played Marnie.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's just like it's really weird when there's like 3 movies with one main character, and then like the 4th movie they're like, it's all right, no one will even notice. We're gonna notice.
Well, it's like when they replace the kids and like the Ninja Kids. Remember Ninja Kids or Ninja? The Three Ninjas. Sorry, Three Ninjas. So they had
in all fairness, Three Ninjas Strike Back and whatnot, it was kind of telling different periods in their life.
Okay.
I guess like I feel like you could explain that one a little bit easier. Like I could at least accept it to a degree, because they at least would always be like, an oldest, like a hot-tempered, like middle child, and like a weird, like little short kid as the youngest. Like at least they tried to keep the like similar, like where some people are like, oh, we're gonna get a 5'1", Latino character, and then in this next movie he's gonna be 6'5" African American. It's the same character. Well, no, it's not. I don't know what happened.
Magic.
And it's okay, like if you explain it. But then there's just like some shows that just don't explain it. Beetleborgs is famous for that. There was something happened with like the original like girl character.
No, they did explain it. I remember this.
They explained it in the show, but they never corrected the problem. She literally like got killed in the show, and they put a disguise over the cousin to like be her.
No, I mean, like what happened was like the sister, the cousin, they changed her appearance, right,
to look like her.
right? They completely changed her appearance so they replaced the actress, right? And they changed her appearance because I guess she wanted off the show. I don't remember, but then like to make everyone else think that she looked like the same person, the clown Jay Leno guy, casted a spell where Flabber, where everyone else sees her as how she originally was,
except for them. They're the only ones that
for them.
But
exactly.
That's because she
and you, the audience. So,
but that's because she got like the original actress, like in the show, they literally made her like, oh, she got trapped in this thing and we couldn't get her out. Like they kind of killed someone, and just like, well, all right, well, hey, I mean, no one's gonna know, no harm, no foul. Kind of messed up. They did the same thing in Power Rangers.
Or who? Which character?
Lost Galaxy. They killed the Pink Ranger, Kendricks.
Okay.
And then they had a astronomer. You don't know enough about Power Rangers to know what I'm saying right now. I'm going to tell you completely fake names.
Sorry, dude. I mean, like, I lost track of it after Turbo. After Turbo, it went downhill for me.
I apologize mostly to you, the fans, for this. Yeah, I mean, just weird overall things that just would not happen today.
No, yeah, because like we're so like because like the people who grew up like us have such a voice now, right? And such a like a thing for like consistency, right? That if they say something ridiculous like that, they're gonna automatically call it out, right? Because last thing the network wants is bad reviews now, right? And
well, it's not our generation. Because if it was our generation, we would have shows like this. We would have almost every reboot. The problem is the new generation that's like, oh, well, can everyone really watch it? Did they think about when they push this guy that they're promoting bullying? Like, yeah, they're promoting bullying. That's part of the story. Like the nerd that gets bullied who comes back as a vengeful spirit. Like that's the story.
Right.
Like I don't know how else to like explain. Like, what do you mean we can't do that? We have to be like
PCB.
Oh, well, someone accidentally bought a brownie with a peanuts in it, and they didn't know he had a peanut allergy, and it's not really the him haunting them. It's them apologize. Like that's not the same.
Yeah. I mean they're being too too careful, I guess.
Yeah. But I will say, just surprisingly, out of all of this horror stuff, the one person that surprised me the most is Disney, because when they did the movie Don't Look Under the Bed,
that was a great movie.
It started off very kid friendly, a little spooky. The end got really creepy when he really transformed into like the monster.
Yeah.
That was it wasn't that bad. And obviously again it had a great ending. Disney made you all warm and fuzzy on the inside. But it got a little creepy there when he like his eyes went wide and he had fangs and he started like growing nails.
Yep.
That was a surprise out of Disney.
And hey, I mean, like Disney tried to be like, hey, let's make something spooky, during the season because it's Halloween. Let's talk about like imaginary friends who throw into monsters underneath the bed. If you don't, I don't know why. Why was he turning? Because his person was no longer
his original girl, who like her imaginary friend. And again, this gets complicated if we don't explain the whole movie, which we might leave off some pieces. Everyone, give us a break. She like convinces her brother, who has like this imaginary friend, like you're too old for this. You just have to, get rid of him. Like this is ridiculous, and like something ends up like coming out of his bed and stealing him at night. So her old imaginary friend goes to her and is like, "Hey, I need your help to get your brother back. He's supposed to be like my kid, why, and then they tackle like the whole Disney, good values thing. Like it's okay to be a kid.
Mm-hmm. Right.
No, don't grow up. Never grow old. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. Always have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like they should revive Are You Afraid of the Dark, more of the sense of like how they revive like Goosebumps. Like,
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be like, I mean, definitely like a good way of like bringing it back. You know, the way that they're tackling. You know.
Let me tell you this: would you, if you had a whole bunch of current day actors, and you had someone, and you didn't even call it like Are You Afraid of the Dark? You just called it like the Midnight Society, where everyone told a Twilight tale.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did like, you took like real people, like, you know, Jordan Peele, who did all these, who does all these new, who did revive the Twilight series, which was really good.
Right.
And like
Right.
he gathered people around this fire, and like, you know, you had like maybe masters of horror or whatnot who took a turn, you know, telling like a quick little one-shot story that they told. You're telling me you wouldn't watch that?
Oh, I totally would.
Watch the hell out of it.
Yeah,
Well,
I totally would.
it brings me back to the one show on Showtime. I think it was called Masters of Horror.
Yes,
Where
I
like
remember that show.
they had a whole bunch of like Wes Craven and Clive Barker come on and do like little short movies. You do something like that, I mean, who's not gonna watch?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially, I mean, yeah.
It's better than promoting movies like Terrifier 3, which I regrettably did watch.
You
That's
didn't
not
like
really.
it?
It's just this point. It's just getting
Ridiculous.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
just getting to a point of.
I mean, look, man. I mean, you get people who are not just good, you know, like horror storytellers, but good storytellers in general. Like for example, Jordan Peele, great pull, great pull. Started as being a comedian, now he's a producer, director, writer that knows how to tell a good freaking story. You know, and you get a good creator. You know, for Are You Afraid of Dark? Guaranteed. You know, it'll take
For
off
sure.
like wildfire. You know, and oh, man, good pull for that what was it called again? The Showtime. What was it called? The show
Masters of Horror.
Masters of Horror. I remember one show in particular for Masters of Horror, and that's when they found this girl in the woods, and like her like face is like a creature, right? But her whole body is just like, you know, gorgeous or whatever, right? And but she eats like the kid. Oh, and that was so messed up, you know, and like and like the way the show begins is like this guy saves this girl from being killed, you know, and then this girl does, you know, horrible things because she's actually like a monster, you know. And then at the end, like she's about to get killed again from this guy, and then she gets saved again from another. It's like this whole like vicious cycle, you know,
Yeah.
involving this monster, you know, which just always somehow escapes, you know,
Right.
being killed, you know. So
Power.
yeah.
Power.
But I remember that episode sticking out in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts on any of these?
It was a great time when you were a '90s kid, you know, and you wanted to like kind of get into horror a little bit, you know, but like not too horror, but just enough of it. I mean, these shows were great. Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? You know, Goosebumps got you. I mean, if you didn't read the books, you watch the show got you wanting to read the books, you know, and that was great because it got kids wanting to read. You know, I mean, I was
Yeah.
one of them. You know,
I mean,
Are You Afraid?
reading's important. Always.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it's what shaped our horror film today. We just grew up in like such messed up situations that someone did make Saw. Like it was just like, oh, you know, what would have happened if we kept the comics code with the, you know, pre-comic code horror?
Yeah.
You know, what could the world have been like if we weren't like so desensitized or to this? Because I think we definitely have some of these movies today because we just grew up and hey, you know, hey, people die.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm definitely not one of them. I don't have that thick of a skin to sit through like those type of horror movies. I get easily scared.
Can't
But
confirm.
yes,
Definitely scared you during Saw.
yeah, I mean, easily. Not even at the most scariest part of it too. Like
No, the part that everyone saw the commercial for, and you
yes,
still jumped high.
exactly. I mean, so it was so easy to scare me, but like that's why I loved watching Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark, because like they were just enough scary for me, where it did frighten me as a kid, but like it wasn't so graphic as like Saw or like Terrify and like all the stuff like that. So, I mean, everyone has their own taste, and that's just my type of taste of horror. Like I mean, Universal Monsters always be on my top list of like best. Like and that and the original Halloween with John Carpenter's Halloween.
Well, I mean, I think and I know there's a new documentary coming out for everyone that's on Instagram. It's probably popped up on feeds across. It's gonna be really good. Horror genres you can almost classify it like you could comics.
Yeah.
We have our 80s, which I mean the 80s kind of really long. Like you could go Universal Monsters, black and white, 80s slasher monster. I mean 80s pretty much generated everyone that we have today. Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. Everything was made in the 80s. 90s, we started to see some revisits and remakes. House on Haunted Hill, a lot of Stephen King movies. I mean, some of those were like remakes, some sequels carrying over. And then 2000s is where we got really into more of I think you could say we got into like the reality kind of horror, where it's like more
psychological,
like home invasion, and we got into a really messed up situation. We're like, oh, we should make a movie where like a family is held hostage and they don't make it out. And we're like, everyone's like, yeah, great movie.
It is terrifying because it could happen.
And then like now we're in this kind of weird phase where now it's just we're so used to it. I think from all these different classes, it's just how can we up the ante?
Or I mean, for me, it's always about like how do you tell a unique story? Like
well, and I think they've gone apart from even telling a story. I mean, now it really is like, can we put a bear trap swinging on a wall with mutants?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like, okay, well, what's the story? They're like, that's the story.
That story, yeah, that's it. So
I know, but like, why are the mutants come from? And they're like, hey, that's the story.
I mean, I can tell you some like good ones that always stick on my mind. I mean, one of them is like Cabin in the Woods.
I'm about to say Cabin in the Woods. I know we've talked about forever.
Yeah, that was a really good, unique one. Chris Hemsworth was in it.
Well, not only that, but I think it's Sigourney Weaver. Number one, please check yourself. Thor is great, but Sigourney Weaver, classic.
Yeah,
that one I think was more interesting for people just because it almost parodied like the trope. I mean, that's what it was. And I think that's what made it probably the most fun.
I mean, that one, the new one that was on Hulu called No One's Gonna Save You.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really good too. Jordan Peele's Nope.
We could debate that.
I mean, I haven't seen it. I mean, I just heard it was really good. So
it wasn't as great as Get Out. Us, but it wasn't terrible. It was a little bizarre.
Okay. And then I mean like the remake Halloweens, like the most recent ones. I mean, I heard part 3 was horrible, but I heard part 1 was really good.
Halloween Kills, or it's Halloween Kills, and then Halloween Ends, I think is again, there'll always be a thing watching Jamie Lee Curtis come back again, watching these people come back. And again, it just goes back to our point, a revival.
Right.
I think everyone's ready for a revival.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, if you got some pull, are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah. I mean, like I will say it again, if you can get a good storyteller, a producer, writer, whoever, to revive Are You Afraid of the Dark, I'm on win.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Again, Alex, last words.
If you can find your bootleg version of Are You Afraid of the Dark on YouTube, go watch them. And same with Goosebumps or
burn us a copy. Burn us a copy and send it to us.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, I think that wraps it up. Everyone, we hope you had fun listening. Let us know what you thought. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit subscribe. Watch our other videos. Again, let us know that you're watching and that you're a fan. Come find us on Instagram, Beyond the Cape Podcast. And find us on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcasts. Everyone listening, have a good night.
Good night, everybody.